Hello. We're going to talk about the Yang Family Tai Chi and its relevance with knees. So sometimes Tai Chi makes people's knees very strong and healthy, as it should, and sometimes it can actually weaken them, deteriorate them, like any exercise or wrong movement would damage and hurt the knees, even over time. So Tai Chi, like every exercise, needs to be done correctly. You can do almost every exercise incorrectly, and then you not only do not get the results of that exercise, but you can get seriously injured. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Tai Chi knees. So first, when we're doing Tai Chi, the knees, they're not locked and they're not bent. They're just what we just released, just sung. So it's almost like as if your legs begin locked, just like unlock your knees. Okay, just like let them go. Now the place that you want to focus on the most is going to be here in the back of the knee. The back of the knee is going to be the health. It's going to be the power of the knee. And it's also one of the most neglected places of the knee. A lot of overemphasis is placed on the front. And ironically or not ironically, that's where most surgeries and injuries and things of that nature come from. So what we're going to do is, we can just start standing. So if you're doing a standing posture, standing meditation, it doesn't even matter which one, because the knee supports the body the same way and in every posture, okay? And that's its job, again, is to transfer the weight of the hip, the weight of the upper body, through the knee, okay? The weight's going through the knee and then into the foot, into the arch. And that gives us shock absorbency, it gives us balance, it gives us stability. Okay. So one of the bigger errors that I see when people are practicing their forms, their Tai Chi, is they're actually like thinking forward. Like, okay, so like when you move forward, you're thinking too much forward. And then the knee ends up going past the toe. Now again, the knee is a weight transferring joint. So if the knee isn't lined up properly, okay, like right there, you can see that the weight's going into my foot. But if the knee is overextended past the toes, then the weight of my body actually gets trapped in the knee and it can't leave, therefore creating weight bearing and a weight transferring joint. And then all these little tendons and things start to become injured, tear, deteriorate, or whatever else you're going to do. Okay, now seeing the function of the front of the knee in Yang Family Tai Chi is basically just to whack into things, you know, not intentionally obviously, but you know, when you bump into your coffee table or something, the front of your knee, that little floating kneecap and all the shock absorbency right there, you know, it's basically to bump into things. So that's what we're going to use the front of the knee for. The back of the knee, now right in the center, the very center of the back of the knee, that's where the weight of the pelvis goes through the hip joint, through your quad, into your thigh bone, and passes through the knee into the shinning calf, and then finally through the ankle and into the foot, where we let that stress go, that tension go. Okay, so again, one of the first things that we just want to pay attention to when shifting in the forms is that when I come forward, okay, there really is no forward, it's called advance. So when I advance and I get to where I'm going, I'm actually letting everything sink down. Okay, I'm actually trying very hard not to push forward and overextend my structure, but to remain upright, relaxed, comfortable, and allow the proper alignment of the knees to give me support in my body, buoyancy, pliability, relaxation and comfort, and ultimately power. Okay, another thing is turning, so we can do some turning. Okay, so we know in Tai Chi we turn from the hip joint or from the quad, the center of the quad. Okay, and it's very common when we turn in Tai Chi, if we're not instructed correctly or maybe we just don't know, okay, that the knees will actually torque in when we turn. So say we're doing like a cloud hands or something, it's very common for the knees to torque in, and we don't want them to, because they're a hinge. Okay, they're just a hinge. In martial arts, you know, people seek to kick the knee that way or kick the knee that way to break it, to tear the tendons so they can't use it. So when we're turning, we don't want to do those things to ourselves. So when I turn, I'm not going to torque the knee in or torque the knee out. But the knees will actually face the direction of the big toe or the tip of your shoes. And then as I turn, that's the direction that those knees continue to face. Now that's true for feet parallel, okay? Or even 1 foot forward. So if you're doing a movement and you do your, say, brush, knee, and push, this hip is lined up with this knee into that foot. That's what's bearing the weight, is the front leg at the end of the movement. And then even in the rear leg, because we have the dongjin, the rounded area here, that the hip, the knee, and the foot are also in alignment here. So even when I'm coming forward like this, okay, this rear knee, very important that it doesn't collapse in. Because again, the weight of my body is going into that knee and it has no way to escape. It has no vector. So keeping the knee over the foot allows the weight to go through the bones and into the floor. And that's the nature of the body, is to have our bones in a line so that the weight of the body, the 210 pounds of me, goes into the floor. It just I don't have to carry 210 pounds around. I can just let it go. And the more I let it go in the bones, the denser the bones become, and the more pliability, elasticity, and blood flow I have through my body. Because as the bones transfer the weight into the floor, it's actually our soft tissues that kind of engage and, you know, put the little spring in our step, or the buoyancy in our body. That very youthful, elastic feeling. A way to practice this would be like you're sitting on a little horse, not too big, don't want to push your thighs out, but the knees don't collapse in. The hips, the knees, and the arch don't collapse in to the best of our ability. Sometimes it's a little hard, we need to practice it, that's okay. But ideally, the thighs kind of separate a little bit, the hips open, the crotch area rounds, and it's kind of like I'm sitting on a little horse, okay? And then, if I'm like on a parade or something, it's just a visualization. The visualization will help lead your mind and your energy, your body, to create the correct movement. It's almost as if I'm sitting on that horse and I'm in a parade and I'm just turning to the left and waving, and turning to the right and waving. And at no point do I want to drive my knees into the horse, causing it to upset or turn or anything like that. So very calm in my legs, and using the rotation of the hip joint, the qua, rotating the pelvis like a wheel. It's too much to explain all in one video. I suggest looking at some of our other videos or other blogs, visiting us at our school, something of that nature. But as I'm doing this, I'm free to turn my pelvis, my spine, my torso left and right, but without losing the stability in my legs and my knees. And again, just to reiterate, if the knees are torquing in, I lose that stability. I lose power. I lose balance. Okay, one of the things that you can really see in daily life is when the knees are used, it's basically to sit and to stand. And that's basically what Yang Family Tai Chi, at least the beginning, is. It's up and down, you know, song and pung, or an and pung, or whatever. But the thing is, it's the weight's here in my feet. And when I want to sit down, the weight will go from my feet. You can kind of see this visibly, and it'll pass through my knees and then go into my hips and my sitting bones. The sitting bones down here, hips here. And then when I stand, the weight doesn't get stuck in the knee, it transfers it right to the foot again. See, so then the pressure's under the foot, under the arch. Any kind of exercise that has you doing this with the knees, I just personally would say run away from it. There's no gain or benefit to pushing the knees forward. There's no meat. There's really no, you know, strong tendons or anything really in the front that support that. It just doesn't support it. The health of the knee is in the back. Okay, your lymph nodes are in your back. The blood vessels, the health, the vitality of the body is in the back. The front is protecting what is the power of the leg, or the power of the knee. The knee, the back of the knee, is actually the third largest cluster of lymph nodes in the body. The hip being the first, and of course the armpit being the second. But we can see how this thigh bone, how this cluster of lymph nodes and this cluster of lymph nodes actually works every time we sit down, every time we stand up. every time we walk upstairs, if we're doing it correctly.